He held the casket and shook it with all his strength. The men tried to pull him away, but he fought them off, screaming, kicking, crying. It was another busy day at Oyingbo Market in Lagos. At one corner of the market stood a small wooden table covered with red, shiny tomatoes, fresh pepper, and garden eggs. The table wasn't fancy, but it was clean and neatly arranged. Behind it stood a woman with a strong voice and a warm smile. Her name was Mrs. Victoria, but everyone in the market called her Madame Tomatoes. She was known for her honesty, her bright laughter, and the way her tomatoes always looked the freshest. "Buy your fresh tomatoes, hero! Madame Tomatoes, your sure plug!" she shouted cheerfully, waving her hand to attract customers. Beside her stood her 12-year-old son, Raphael, a thin boy with bright, curious eyes and a smile that could melt any heart. He had his mother's energy and her kindness too. Every morning, before most children had even left their beds, Raphael was already at the market, helping his mother. He would carefully arrange the tomatoes, wiping each one with a clean rag so they would shine under the morning sun. Sometimes he would stack them in tiny pyramids, proud of how beautiful they looked. When customers passed by, Raphael's small but confident voice would rise. "Fine, madam, buy tomatoes na. It's sweet and fresh. Try 'em once, you could come back again." People always laughed when they heard him. "This small boy sabi market past some adults," one woman said with a grin. Another man would pat Raphael's head and say, "You go make your mama proud, my pekin." Raphael would smile shyly, then look up at his mother. Her eyes always shone with pride. Life wasn't easy for them. They didn't have much, but Mrs. Victoria worked hard every day to make sure her son had food to eat and could go to school, even if sometimes it meant selling tomatoes under the hot sun until evening. Their room was small, just one room with a wooden door, a small mattress, a few cooking pots, and a bucket that caught the rain whenever the roof leaked. But Mrs. Victoria never complained. At night, when the generator sounds filled the air outside, she would sit beside Raphael, fanning herself with an old piece of cardboard. "My son," she would say smiling, even after a long day, "life may be hard now, but God is watching. One day you will make me proud." And Raphael would nod eagerly. "Yes, Mama, I will buy you a big house one day. No more rain leaking on your head." Mrs. Victoria would laugh softly. "Amen, my child, I believe you." Every morning before they left home, they prayed together. Mrs. Victoria would hold Raphael's small hands and say, "Lord, bless the work of our hands today. Keep my son safe and give us good sales." Then they would step out into the busy streets of Lagos, hand in hand, mother and son, ready to face another day. To the people who walked past, they were just another market woman and her child. But to Raphael, his mother was a hero. She was his teacher, his protector, and his best friend. And though he didn't know it yet, that same love he had for his mother would one day become the greatest pain he would ever feel. The morning breeze blew softly through the open window, carrying the scent of burning firewood and frying plantain from a nearby house. The rays of the sun slowly crawled across the small room, touching the faded family photo that hung on the cracked wall. Mrs. Victoria was standing in front of a mirror, tying her blue wrapper tightly around her waist. Her hands moved quickly, wrap, tuck, smooth. She had done this every morning for years. Raphael sat quietly on the wooden chair beside the bed, watching her. He didn't say a word. He just watched. For days now, something heavy had been resting on his young heart. It wasn't about school or hunger. It was a question. A question that had been following him for years, like a shadow. He cleared his throat and spoke softly. "Mama?" Mrs. Victoria turned, smiling. "Yes, my son?" Raphael's voice was low, almost afraid. "Mama, who is my father?" The smile on her face disappeared. Her hands stopped moving. For a moment, she didn't breathe. The sound of slippers clapping on the street outside was the only thing breaking the silence. Raphael looked down, tracing circles on the floor with his toe. "Mama, I'm 12 now," he said. "Every time I ask you, you say, 'When you come of age, I will tell you.' Mama, I think I have come of age." Mrs. Victoria took a deep breath and sat slowly on the wooden chair beside her bed. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her wrapper close to her chest. Raphael sat on a small stool opposite her, his eyes fixed on her face. He had never seen his mother this quiet before. The air in the small room felt heavy, like it was carrying a secret that had been waiting too long to be spoken. "Many years ago," she began softly, "I was working as a cleaner in a big company here in Lagos. That was where I met your father. He was my boss." Raphael blinked. "My father was your boss?" She nodded gently, her eyes staring into the past. "Yes, my son. He was a tall, gentle man. His name was also Raphael, Raphael Johnson. He was one of the kindest people I had ever met." She smiled faintly, remembering. "Every morning when he came to work, I would greet him, take his bag, and arrange his office. He always said, 'Good morning, Victoria,' with that soft voice of his. He treated me with respect, something not many people did back then. To him, I wasn't just a cleaner. I was a human being." Raphael listened quietly, his small hands gripping his knees. He could hear the pain in her voice, but also something else. Love. One day, he asked me about my life. I told him how hard things had been for me, how I was taking care of my sick mother in the village. He looked at me with pity and said, "You are a strong woman, Victoria. One day, God will reward you." From that day, he started helping me. He would give me small money to send to Mama. He even bought me new shoes when mine tore. She paused, tears glistening in her eyes. I didn't know when I started falling in love with him. He was so kind, so gentle. Then one afternoon, after everyone had gone home, he called me into his office. He told me he loved me and wanted to marry me. Raphael's eyes widened. "He said that?" "Yes," she whispered. "At first, I refused, because I knew he had a family. But when I asked him, he said he was not married, that the woman people saw him with was his cousin. I believed him. I loved him." Her voice began to tremble. "He married me secretly. We had a small ceremony, just the two of us and one of his friends as a witness. I thought it was the beginning of a beautiful life." She looked away, wiping her tears with the edge of her wrapper. "The same month, I found out I was pregnant with you. Oh, Raphael, I was so happy. I wanted to surprise him when he returned from a business trip abroad. I even bought a small baby cloth from the market. It was white with blue ribbons. I planned to show him and say, 'You're going to be a father.'" Her voice broke. "But before he came back, the plane he boarded crashed. He died." Raphael gasped. His heart began to pound. "Mama, are you serious?" She nodded slowly. "I will never forget that day. I cried until I could not feel my body." The next morning, his family came to the house. They shouted at me, called me names, and said I was a liar. When I told them I was his wife, they laughed. They said their son could never marry a cleaner like me. Then they threw me out, pregnant and heartbroken. Raphael's eyes filled with tears. "Mama." She forced a smile through the pain. "I had no one, nowhere to go. I rented this one small room with the little money I had saved. I gave birth to you here, on this same mat you sleep on. I didn't even have a midwife. It was one of the women from next door who helped me." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Only the sound of a distant rooster crowing broke it. Then Mrs. Victoria looked at her son, her eyes filled with love. "I named you Raphael, after your father. You are the only gift he left me. Every time I look at you, I see him, his eyes, his smile. That's why I never wanted you to grow up with anger in your heart. I wanted you to know love, even if life was hard." Raphael couldn't hold his tears anymore. He stood up and walked into his mother's arms. She hugged him tightly, her tears falling on his back. "Mama," he whispered, "I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be my father's son." Mrs. Victoria smiled weakly. "My son, no matter what anyone says, never forget, you were born out of love." Outside, the morning sun slowly rose over the rooftops of Lagos, casting a golden light through their small window. Inside that humble room, a mother and her son held each other, two souls connected by truth, pain, and love. Raphael's eyes were full of tears. He hugged his mother tightly, burying his face in her wrapper as if he never wanted to let go. "Mama," he said in a trembling voice, "I promise I will make you proud. I will be a good boy. I will work hard and take care of you. I will become rich, like my father." Mrs. Victoria smiled through her own tears. She placed her rough, tomato-stained hands gently on his cheeks and whispered, "Amen, my son. Amen. God will bless your hands." She kissed his forehead softly. For a moment, they just stayed there, mother and son, wrapped in love and hope, unaware of what the future held. From that day, something changed in Raphael. He was no longer the same playful boy who only thought about football or running around with his friends after market hours. There was a new fire in his eyes, the fire of purpose. Every morning, before the sun rose, Raphael would wake up, sweep the compound, fetch water, and help his mother set up their market table. He no longer complained or got tired easily. Whenever his mother looked at him, she saw a new kind of strength growing in her little boy. Sometimes, when customers came to buy tomatoes, Raphael would quickly help them carry their heavy baskets to the bus stop. "Madame, make I help you?" he would say politely. Many of them smiled and gave him small coins in return, 10 naira, sometimes 20 naira. It wasn't much, but to Raphael, it was treasure. He didn't spend it, not even a single coin. Every night, he would carefully remove the money from his pocket, straighten the wrinkled notes, and put them inside a small plastic container under his bed. The container used to hold sweets once, but now it held something sweeter, his dreams. One night, as he counted his savings, Mrs. Victoria entered quietly and saw him smiling to himself. "My son, what are you doing?" she asked gently. Raphael quickly covered the container. "Nothing, Mama," he said, grinning shyly. Mrs. Victoria chuckled. "Ah, so you now have secrets from your mother." He laughed and shook his head. "It's not a secret, Mama. One day I will show you, but not now. It's a surprise." Mrs. Victoria touched his head affectionately. Surprise. You are growing fast, Raphael. God will guide you, my child." Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Raphael kept saving every little coin he earned. Sometimes, when his friends bought puff-puff or biscuits after school, they called him to join them. "Raphael, come buy yours now," they would shout. He would smile and shake his head. "No, I'm not hungry. Maybe later." But deep down, he was hungry, not for food, but for success. One Saturday afternoon, after helping his mother at the market, he sat under a tree, counting his money again. He whispered to himself, "Soon I will buy something nice for Mama. Maybe a new wrapper or new slippers. Something that will make her happy." He imagined her smile, the way her eyes shone whenever she was proud of him, and that thought alone gave him strength. Sometimes when it rained and the market was almost empty, Raphael still helped his mother cover the tomatoes with nylon sheets. "Mama, don't worry. One day we won't sell under the rain again. We will have our own shop." Mrs. Victoria always smiled and said, "Amen, my son. You will be great." And every night before they went to sleep, Raphael would whisper his quiet prayer, "God, please bless me so I can bless my mother." He didn't know how or when, but he believed with all his heart that one day he would make his promise come true. The sun rose gently over Lagos that morning, spreading golden light across the sky. The air was filled with the sound of traders calling out, children laughing, rooftops. It was a new day, fresh, peaceful, and full of promise. Mrs. Victoria stood by their small wooden table, arranging the remaining tomatoes in a basket. Her wrapper was neatly tied and a small handbag hung from her shoulder. She looked at her son and smiled warmly. "Raphael, my son," she said softly, "I am going to the big market today to buy more tomatoes. The ones we have here are almost finished." Raphael stopped sweeping the front of their stall and looked up. "Okay, Mama." She nodded. "You will go home. I don't want only you to stay alone in the market. When I come back, I will send someone to call you, all right? Stay close to home and don't go far." "Yes, Mama," he replied cheerfully. Mrs. Victoria smiled again, patted her head lovingly, and said a short prayer over him. "God will bless you, my child. You will grow and prosper in life." "Amen, Mama," he said, grinning. She turned and began her journey to the big market, her slippers making a soft flap-flap sound against the dusty ground. Raphael watched her until she disappeared down the busy street, her basket balanced perfectly on her head. When she was gone, the world seemed a little quieter. Raphael went back inside their small house, his heart beating fast with excitement. He reached under the wooden bed and pulled out a small, rusty tin box, his savings box. It was old, dented in one corner, but it held something precious, his dreams. He sat on the floor, opened it carefully, and began to count. 100, 200, 300, 4, he whispered, as his small fingers moved over each note and coin. When he finished counting, he smiled proudly. "I have enough," he said with joy. "Today I will buy something special for Mama. She will be so happy." He could already imagine her surprised face, the way her eyes would light up, and her laughter that always made his heart warm. Quickly, he put on his cleanest shirt, the one Mama washed for him last Sunday, and slipped the money into his pocket. As he stepped outside, the morning sun kissed his cheeks. The smell of roasted corn, fried plantain, and soap from the nearby laundry filled the air. Raphael walked through the market, his small legs moving quickly between busy traders and customers. Women shouted prices, men carried baskets of goods on their heads, and children ran around playing. He stopped by a stall filled with bright, colorful wrappers. They shone under the sunlight. Red, blue, yellow, green, each one more beautiful than the other. The woman selling them smiled at him. "Small boy, who you want buy for?" she asked kindly. "For my Mama," he replied proudly. "I want something fine, something she will like." The woman's smile grew wider. "Ah, you are a good son. Wait, make I show you one fine one." She brought out a shiny, colorful wrapper, red with golden flowers printed across it. It sparkled like fire when the light touched it. "This one is special. Any woman may wear 'em go look like queen." Raphael's eyes widened. Wow, Mama will love this one. He counted his money carefully and gave it to the woman. She wrapped the cloth neatly in bright paper and tied it with a small ribbon. As he held the gift, his heart danced with happiness. "I can't wait to see her face," he whispered. "She will be so proud of me." He hurried home, walking fast so no one would stop him. When he reached the house, he went straight to the room and hid the wrapped gift under the bed. Then he sat down, smiling to himself. He kept looking at the door, waiting, listening for her footsteps, for her familiar voice calling his name. The sun climbed higher and the market noise outside grew louder, but Raphael's heart was quiet, filled only with love, hope, and the joy of giving. He didn't know that this beautiful morning would change his life forever. Hours passed. The sun went down slowly, painting the sky with orange and purple colors. The sounds of the market began to fade, replaced by the cries of babies and the barking of dogs in the distance. Inside the small room, Raphael sat on a wooden stool, looking at the door. "Mama should have been back by now," he murmured, glancing at the old clock on the wall. "Maybe she met too many customers in the market." He waited. Minutes turned to hours. The sound of crickets filled the air. Still, no one came to call him. He stood up and went outside, stretching his neck toward the dusty road that led to the main market. He saw people passing with lanterns and baskets, but his mother was not among them. "Let me wait for her outside," he said softly, trying to smile, though his heart began to feel uneasy. He went back inside to pick up the padlock so he could lock the door. But when he stepped out again, something felt strange. He heard soft murmurs, voices of women, footsteps of many people coming from afar. As they drew nearer, Raphael saw the glow of lanterns and the shadows of people moving together. Their faces looked heavy, filled with sorrow. Some women were covering their mouths with wrappers, and others were crying quietly. He frowned, confused. "What's happening?" he asked, looking from one face to another. No one answered him. Some turned away, others looked down. Then one of the women, Mama Grace, their next-door neighbor, walked toward him. Her eyes were red, and her voice shook as she said, "Oh, my son, please be strong." Raphael blinked. "Be strong? For what? Where is my mother?" No one spoke. The air was thick with silence. Then Raphael saw it. 4 men carrying a wooden casket. They were walking slowly, their heads bowed. The lantern light flickered against the wood, and Raphael's heart began to pound. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, it's not true. Mama, who is that? Who is inside?" he asked, his voice trembling. The crowd was silent. The only sound was the distant cry of a baby. Then Mama Grace reached out and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Her tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "My son, it's your mother." For a moment, Raphael could not breathe. The world around him went quiet. The sounds faded. His heart stopped. He stared at the casket, as if his mind refused to understand. Then suddenly he screamed, "No! No, it's not true! Mama! Mama!" He ran toward the men carrying the coffin and fell beside it, crying uncontrollably. "Mama, please wake up! You promised to come back. You said you were going to buy tomatoes, remember? Mama, please." He held the casket and shook it with all his strength. The men tried to pull him away, but he fought them off, screaming, kicking, crying. The crowd wept. Some women knelt on the ground and prayed. Others covered their faces, unable to watch the little boy's pain. Raphael's voice cracked as he cried, "Who will call me my son again? Who will cook for me? Mama, please don't leave me alone." He pressed his cheek against the wooden box, sobbing until his voice was weak. Mama Grace bent down and held him close, her tears mixing with his. "My child," she said softly, "God knows best." But Raphael could not hear her. His heart was broken beyond words. The woman who loved him, who worked under the hot sun every day to feed him, was gone forever. The night wind blew gently, carrying away his cries into the darkness. The stars above seemed to weep with him, and as the people began to move the casket inside, Raphael's small voice whispered one last time, "Mama, please come back." That night, when everyone had left, Raphael sat alone in the dark room. The air was heavy and still, the kind of silence that makes even the ticking clock sound too loud. His eyes were red and swollen. His heart felt like it had stopped working. All day, people had come and gone, neighbors, church members, and Mama's friends from the market. They brought food, water, and tears. They said words like, "Be strong, my son," and "God knows best." But Raphael did not answer. He only nodded, looking at nothing. Now the lamps were out. Only the weak moonlight slipped through the curtain, painting pale lines on the wall. Raphael sat on the floor beside the small wooden table where Mama used to count her money every night. Her wrapper still hung on the chair. Her slippers were still beside the bed. Everything in the room reminded him of her. Slowly, he crawled under the bed and brought out the small, shiny package. It was wrapped neatly in gold paper, tied with a bright red ribbon. He had saved for weeks to buy it, a simple necklace with a tiny silver heart. He had planned to give it to her when she returned from the market. His hands trembled as he held the gift close to his chest. "This was supposed to be for you, Mama," he whispered. His voice cracked like dry wood. "You were supposed to smile and say, 'Thank you, my son.' You were supposed to wear it to church on Sunday." He pressed the gift against his heart and began to cry again. His tears fell on the wrapping paper, leaving small wet spots that sparkled in the dim light. "I will not open it, Mama," he said softly. "It will stay with me forever. No one will touch it, not even me." He lay down on the floor beside the bed, hugging the gift like it was his mother's hand. The cold floor did not bother him. His body was numb. His heart felt empty, but somewhere deep inside, he could still hear Mama's voice, warm, loving, gentle. "Raphael, my son, remember to pray, remember to be kind, remember to work hard, remember, I love you." He closed his eyes tightly, wishing she could answer back. Outside, the city was quiet. The street lights flickered. The distant hum of motorcycles faded away. The market that once echoed with shouts and laughter now seemed like another world. The boy who once shouted, "Buy tomatoes, fresh tomatoes," was silent now, too silent. He was only 12, yet the world had already shown him pain beyond his years. As the night grew deeper, Raphael drifted into sleep, his arms still around the golden package. And though he slept, his lips moved slightly, whispering the same words again and again. "Good night, Mama. I will make you proud. I promise." The gift lay between his hands, a gift that would never be opened, but would always carry a mother's love and a son's promise.